Is Snowden a hero or a goat? In the biblical sense, you know. Jesus was separating the sheep from the goats, and the goats were the ones who went off to hell. And I shouldn't have to explain this. Anyway, is he a hero or a traitor? And where do we go with this? What do we do with this? I continue to think that the biggest challenge that we are facing right now is not so much the Patriot Act, is not so much the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and the FISA courts that it produced. I think these are bad pieces of legislation. But I continue to believe that the biggest problem that we're facing right now is the Reagonomics doctrine that government functions should be outsourced to private for-profit corporations. And that among those government functions are things that we really, really do need to be holding close to our vest. We need, our prison industry. If we're gonna use the power of the state to imprison people, it should be to rehabilitate them or to protect society from them, not so somebody can make a dollar off it. Our military, if we're going to have a large, strong, capable military, it should be to protect the United States and our strategic interests around the world. It should not be so that Dick Cheney's old company, Halliburton, which was just inches away from bankruptcy when he was selected by the Supreme Court to be Vice President of the United States in 2000, which Joe Biden pointed out today. Let me digress for just a moment. Joe Biden, or it was in today's news, perhaps it was last night that he said it, but Joe Biden came out and said Al Gore was actually elected president. And he did the right thing for the Republic when we had this bad decision by the Supreme Court and didn't step into office. Now, you can argue whether Al Gore saying, okay, I'm going to go along with the Supreme Court is the right thing or not. I'm guessing had he not done that, he would have been facing, a court that might have even ordered his imprisonment. Who knows? This would have been a genuine constitutional crisis of the type that Americans thought was going to happen in 1800, in the election of 1800. But, all that said, and I find it just fascinating, that the Vice President of the United States right now, Joe Biden, comes out and says, yeah, Al Gore was actually elected President of the United States. Finally, somebody's telling the truth about it. But anyhow, that all that aside, the big problem that I see is this Reagonomics doctrine that we should be handing this stuff off to private for-profit corporations, a doctrine that has been supported by the Supreme Court. So now you have private for-profit corporations that are profiting off the national security state and thus have an incentive to lobby for more and more snooping, more and more spying, more and more big contracts, more and more giant computers, more and more big data centers, more and more Big Brother. They've become the tail that's wagging the dog of government. Because the Supreme Court legalized it, and Reagan turned it into a theology. In the next hour, Richard Viguerie is going to drop by, the uber conservative, and we're going to talk about prison reform. And that these guys are still pitching, hey, private prisons are the answer to everything. No. And private defense contractors are not the answer, and spying contractors are not the answer to everything. In fact, private spying contractors are the problem. We should not be outsourcing. There are just some things you don't outsource. We should not be outsourcing legislation. Consider this. Several times a year, there's this group called the American Legislative Exchange Council that gets together with virtually entirely Republican state legislators. There are a few Democrats who are members, but it's almost entirely Republicans. They get together at various places around the country, and one-to-one, legislator to lobbyist, corporations and Republican legislators sit in the room together and come up with what they call model legislation. They write legislation to take back and introduce into the states. And in most cases, it's not actually even written at these ALEC meetings. It's written by the corporations long before their lobbyists show up at the ALEC meetings. They bring it to the ALEC meetings, lay it out for the Republican lawmakers' inspection and approval, and maybe a few tweaks here and there. And then the Republicans take it back to their states and introduce it as law. And we've seen this in state after state after state with law after law after law, from things like the Stand Your Ground laws to the voter suppression laws to laws making it harder to prosecute corporations for malfeasance, laws, the so-called tort reform laws. I mean, it just goes on. So we've even outsourced legislation legally by Supreme Court doctrine. The Supreme Court says this is just fine. You can't pass a law against this. It's free speech. These corporations are people, and their money is speech. And so now we have this national security state, which has conservatives and libertarians a little concerned, many of them a lot concerned, and liberals and progressives a lot concerned. But I think even worse, we have a national security industry that is self-perpetuating and doing everything it can to grow itself like a cancer.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
And nobody is talking about that industry. And that industry, in my mind, is the big danger.